This episode is brought to you by Rad Scooter Deli on 6th Street. Craving something delicious in Paso Robles? Rad Scooter Deli on 6th Street has you covered. Enjoy tasty sandwiches, fresh salads, and smoothies like the Banana Nut Blast, my personal favorite. Kick back on the covered patio, sip on a cold beer and wine, and enjoy the easy parking. Order online for pickup or dine-in. And here's a treat. Use promo code PODCAST for $5 off your next order. That's podcast for $5 off your next order. Open daily from 6:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Red Scooter Deli. Local flavor, fast and fresh. This episode is brought to you by the White Wave Wellness. Choose to live a healthy and fulfilling life. Wellness is more than being free from illness. It is a process of change and growth towards a mentally and physically healthy lifestyle. Reach out to Jennifer Hale to learn more about how this water can change your life. This episode is sponsored by Western Janitor Supply. They have cleaning supplies and equipment for any workplace. Call today at 805-238-2112. They provide an extensive line of chemicals, paper products, and floor equipment. Again, that's Western Janitor Supply, located in downtown Paso Robles. This episode is sponsored by Santos Bros Plumbing. Are you in need of a dependable and effective plumber you can trust? Look no further than Santos Bros Plumbing, your trusted local plumbers in Paso Robles, California. Call them now at 805-360-4679. That's Santos Bros Plumbing. All right. we are here in Daniel Woodland, right? Is that what it's called?
Close. It's Daniel's Woodland.
Woodland.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's three words. And Daniel's is it's not apostrophe S. It's not Daniel's doesn't have a woodland.
Oh, okay.
It's Daniel's Woodland.
That's funny. So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself because I don't want to mess it up anymore.
Oh yeah, no,
so
that's funny.
go for it, man.
I just have to make it. Sometimes people call it Daniel Woodland or whatever like
Right,
that,
yeah.
But no, it's three words. Daniel's Woodland. And so I'm Ron Daniels, and I'm one of the owners and founders of Daniel's Woodland. And just a real quick thing, the reason why there's a wood in there is because not only do we work with wood, but early on in our genesis, there was a third member of the trio here. So we were a trio, and that other individual's last name was Wood. And we bought them out and we moved on, but we kept the name. It's Daniel's Wood Land, and it was kind of a clever combination of our last names and everything, but it still fits, and we've always kept it from there. Daniel's Woodland. Yep. And so here we are. Probably 26 years later since the founding of Daniel's Woodland.
Oh, here in the same location?
Not in the same location, but we've always been in Paso Robles. So.
Okay.
So my brother John and I are Paso Robles natives, and in fact we grew up just about a mile and a half from where we sit today, and graduates of Paso Robles High School. My brother John has never really had a real job, but we grew up on a ranch, and John stayed home on the ranch and rode horses to pay for his room and board while I went off to college. I spent some time at Cuesta, and then I went to Cal Poly through a master's degree in math. And ended up marrying a pretty girl that I met actually in high school, but we started dating when she finally got her head on straight. She finally figured out that where the bread was buttered, right? No, I'm just kidding.
I have a similar story to that.
But I had graduated, and so we started dating, and then we got married, and I went off to college while John stayed home, like I said, on the ranch doing things. And then after his work was done, he'd start doing carvings. He got good at it, He just tried it, and he's always been a really artistic guy. He's my twin brother,
Okay.
but our brains are wired completely different. John is absolutely horrible at math, and I graduated with a 3.98 GPA with my master's degree in math from Cal Poly, and in fact I was a math professor at Cuesta for a night school professor in the early 2000s. John could hardly pass his math proficiency test to get out of high school. So our brains are wired totally different, but John's a genius. If you see his artwork, I mean, his brain's just wired different. I kind of think if he could do math the way I could, he might not be the artist and woodcarver that he is. There's just some different things there, and so it's kind of a yin and yang situation. I always and John does not argue with this concept at all, but we freely and openly tell everybody that I'm the adult in the partnership, and you'll see John pull up around 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning after Scooby-Doo's done playing in the morning, I hope he listens to this so he can hear me take a jab at him about it. But no, he's definitely creative and fun. And even though we're twin brothers, I got the gray hair, John doesn't have a gray hair in his body. So that tells you, who worries and who thinks like, that. So I kind of run the business aspect of the company.
Okay.
John kind of heads up the, the art direction and the dreaming side of it. But I also do have a fun creative side that I really do enjoy. When I get involved in the creative side, it's the storytelling, it's the script writing, and it's the, directing or producing audio content for our animatronic characters. The art department and the shop makes a character look really, really cool. But if you have a really cool looking bear or a pirate, he's really cool looking. And, but we got to bring this character to life. And it's not really complete until we give him a sound.
Right.
And so it's like, what's his personality? What is a bear with a big belly and a carnival outfit sound like? He looks really cool and he gets your attention, but now what's he sound like? And you don't always know. It's not always apparent, but we just start playing with some sounds until we go, that's him.
Right.
We just met our character. We just met him. And a lot of the characters that we've dealt with over the years, gosh, they're like my friends. Does that sound weird? They're like people that we know.
I don't think so. I think it's very important. It's a part of who you are.
Yeah. I would never call myself Walt Disney, but I can imagine like Walt Disney thinks of Mickey Mouse as his friend.
Yeah.
It's a character that he knows. He's told so many stories through that character that and everything. And so we have characters. We built a ride in Monterey called Treasure Hunt the Ride, and Treasure Hunt the Ride is it's a spectacular pirate themed attraction right there on Cannery Row, and we tied the backstory of the ride into Monterey's real authentic pirate history.
Yeah.
And so Monterey has some great pirate history. The West Coast only ever had one real pirate. His name was Hippolyte Bouchard, and he sacked the town of Monterey in 1818, and he kidnapped the imprisoned town drunk named Molina. And so Treasure Hunt, when we started doing all the creatives for it and designing it, we incorporated Captain Bouchard and Molina into our storyline, and we gave him a sound. And so Molina's like a friend of mine now, and he's an animatronic character in the ride. And we created, there's an elevator ride you go down, and so the elevator, it crashes and the repairman comes out, and he's a character on screen. His name's Connor, and Connor is this Irish brogue character, so he's one of my friends also. Molina has a sidekick donkey named Don Pedro, and so he's one of our fun characters. We've got the pirate character out front that's, selling tickets. His name's Sharkbait Sam. And I know, he's one of our buddies too. So, we have all these characters, and we build a lot of shooting galleries all over the world. We're the number one shooting gallery creator on planet Earth. And these electronic shooting galleries are, big arcade equipment, and they have a lot of animatronics, things that move around. And most of the time there's at least one, if not two or three central talking characters. And so the Coney Island shooting gallery has a bear. He's this Coney Island, he's this carnival salesman. And we gave him a voice. He sounds like Foghorn Leghorn. Step right up and test your metal with a little lead. It's only a quarter, plus 3 more that is, but those are just minor details, of course. Is that guy, And we got this cranky old buzzard. He's like, he's just grumpy. He's just a mean old buzzard.
Yeah.
So what's a mean old buzzard sound like? So you start thinking about that. And he came up with, he sounds something like, what are you supposed to be? Some kind of science experiment? Or, I wouldn't hurt a fly. I'd hurt you, though, a lot. He's just this cranky old buzzard. Yeah. And, I don't, there's there's so many different characters, but that's one of my creative sides is I love giving these guys a personality and writing a script and telling a story, through them and their eyes. And these are just some of our friends at Daniels Woodland. They're almost like employees that you don't have to pay.
Yeah, that's a good way to see it.
Yeah. So I should probably tell you a little bit about Daniels Woodland and who we are. We just kind of jumped in there, but it's a lot of people. What is Daniels Woodland? Many people locally have driven by our shop, especially when they did the roundabout intersection at Union and
They
Golden
had to take
Hill.
the detour.
They had a detour past this brand new road called Ardmore Road. Well, a few years ago, actually it was in 2017, we purchased a piece of land right in that area, and it was a cow pasture, and we developed it into our headquarters and moved into this place. We built a purpose-built facility for what we do right here on Ardmore Road, and opened. We moved in February of 2020, just in time to shut down for COVID, which is a whole other fun story. But it's our headquarters now. Well, later when they did that roundabout, they detoured a whole bunch of traffic for a year past our front shop, and until then we were kind of secret, and we didn't mind. We don't do a lot of work locally. A lot of our work it's more outside of the state of California, let alone outside of Paso Robles. We work all over planet Earth, building themed environments and props and promotional items and shooting galleries, themed playgrounds. A lot of folks know us for our we build the only tree house in the world that comes with its own tree. A lot of folks might remember our Animal Planet series, a TV series called Redwood Kings that played on Animal Planet for a couple of years. Gosh, that's been 10 years ago now, but it's still, people remember us all the time, from that. But that gave a really fun look into the day in the life of Daniels Woodland. And so we've been around for a long time, but when people are driving by, they're seeing some really cool things outside of our shop.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the heck is going on in there? And locally, we've kind of got this air about us. I think a lot of people, they drive by, it's like that Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's like something that looks really cool, man. I wonder what's going on in there.
Right.
And we even have some public electric vehicle chargers in our parking lot where we feed our excess solar power into those car chargers, and so it's on the grid where local electric vehicle drivers can look up the nearest place to charge.
Oh, and they show
a lot of times they end up showing up here, and so they sit in our parking lot and they're like, and it's just a car charger. We don't have a bunch of public amenities and things like that, but it brings strangers by and they're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So they come knocking a lot of times, and if they catch me at the right time, we'll bring them on a tour. If it's like we're still in the middle of our workday, but if it's a late afternoon or Friday afternoon and I'm just here and most things are kind of wound down and I have some chance, I enjoy giving a surprise tour to somebody who wasn't expecting anything like that.
Yeah.
And we just have a good old time because when you get on the inside, it's that I can't believe this is here kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I've gone to Disneyland, and well, you can see this room that we're in right. So this is just kind of a glimpse. Our showroom and office space and things like that, when we created it, we wanted it to be a medley of the kinds of things that we build and sell.
Yeah.
And so when our guests come, when our customers come, they want to talk about, a themed facade. We have lots of that to look at. If they want to talk about an animatronic, they can come in our tiki room here and they can see it. This is the deal closer room, by the way. So, we love it when a customer comes and sees us and we go on the tour and we talk about their project.
Yeah.
And then we come in here and we play the tiki show. And then after that, they're all excited. And then we're like, hey, so speaking of fun things to do, you guys want to make a deal and go ahead and make it, sign here on the contract. So this is the deal closing room, but it is a fun room. My brother and I are huge Disney fans.
Yeah.
Of course. We also happen to be Disney gallery artists. So we create a whole line of redwood carvings carved from salvaged ancient sequoia redwood. And one of them sitting right here this is Sorcerer Mickey, and this is a piece of 2,000 to 3,000 year old sequoia redwood that was salvaged from the forest, and it's stamped on the bottom with the Disney rondelle. It's branded, and they're numbered, limited edition. There's only ever going to be 50 of these made. I think they're pretty close to sold out now, but they're sold in the Disney galleries, and they're just exquisite collectible, pieces of artwork. We've done I'd say close to 40 designs now, with some more on the way. The latest hot seller is Grogu. He's just doing insanely well. But so, as Disney gallery artists, this is a chance to see our work and pick it up. But during COVID, my brother and I, this was just a blank room because we had just barely moved into this space.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of our buddies are some Disney Imagineers, and they were laid off. So we said, "You're not doing anything this summer. Get your butt to Paso Robles." And we had them stay in a travel trailer outside the shop. We said, "We're going to have Tiki Camp in Paso Robles. So get up here for Tiki Camp." And so, they just joined forces, and we just made our own private version, private copy of the Disneyland Tiki Room to just show folks. And it is a lot of fun. And it's a fully functioning animatronic show. It's absolutely spectacular. We put over 8,000 man hours in this room, creating the carvings and the molds of the original wood carvings to make fiberglass copies and all the mechanisms. And there's miles and miles of hoses and wires hidden in the wall to make all the magic happen. And it's a spectacular show.
So you're saying this will be part of the tour?
If they're lucky, yeah,
okay.
You betcha. You bet. In fact, it's always a nice way. Sometimes I'm really busy, but we get people that come in and they're like, "What is this place?" And you can tell they're really excited. And I don't want to be mean, but maybe I'm stressed or whatever, or I got some urgent things I can't stop.
Right.
And so I'll just go, "Well, welcome to Daniel's Woodland. We build crazy things all over planet Earth. I'm going to put you in the Tiki Room. Enjoy the show. Have a great day. And by the time the show's over, your car will probably be done charging, and you're just, you're welcome to have fun here, and then head on and back out to your car, when you're done." But I can just give them a quick free show like that.
Yeah.
And it's shocking, to sometimes, because, you go walking in the door, you never expect something like this. So.
Right. Well, I mean, that when I was told where to park, it's like, "Oh, park by the giant robot."
What? Yeah.
I was like, okay. And so and then I saw the doors and I'm like, well, I'm definitely going through those doors because that's going to be an experience.
Right.
And then once I got on the inside, it looked like it was like, if there's a zombie apocalypse outside, this is a good place to lock yourself in.
Oh yeah. Cause those big, huge doors, you can barricade them in there. Yeah. You're right. It's a very themed entrance, and Park by the Robot is a great landmark. Everybody that's driven by our shop has seen probably that.
Park by the Robot. Yeah.
But the fun thing too is there's, we did this, like I said, it's a medley of the kinds of things we build and sell. And so one of the things we also do is we stamp concrete, or we can even overlay, maybe brick stamp work over like a monolithic concrete pad to just a boring gray concrete slab. Mm-hmm. We can add a really thin layer to turn it into like a cobblestone street or stamped mud or whatever like that. And so you'll see that when you walk in, and there's a sidewalk that goes the length of our building, and it's all stamped to look like kind of old dried mud. And right as the concrete was setting up, we came out with a bunch of stamps, and there were some like dog track. Actually, I called my dog to run across the concrete like I got chased by a dog. And then we made some big footprints that we stamped around there, and some raccoon tracks and some bear tracks. And the concrete guy's like going, "What the heck are you guys doing?" We're like, "Oh man, relax." In his world, when there's footprints in concrete, it means you got to jackhammer it up and start over. Yeah. But we're like, "No, we're telling a story." And there's a great story. The last thing that we did is we rolled wagon wheels the length of the building all the way into the building and into our office area that looks like Diagon Alley. Only we call it Daggum Alley because on account of we're a little more redneck than Harry Potter, but it looks like that old European cobblestone street. And so these wagon tracks go the length of the building, and they're pulled by a horse. And so if you know which way the footprints are, the hoof prints in the mud that dried, you can even tell which direction it's going.
Okay.
So it's kind of my own veritable yellow brick road. Mm-hmm. So when people come to see me, I go, "Park anywhere in the parking lot, go to the sidewalk in front of the building, and follow the wagon tracks to my office." And they'll get right there, And so it's a fun way to arrive. So, yeah.
Obviously this is years and thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of hours being put into this whole place.
Yeah.
Is this something you've always imagined yourself doing as a kid?
Yeah. No.
No. Yeah.
That's Daniel's Woodland is just it's a crazy, people are like, "How did you get here? How did you ever imagine?" And that is a really great question. I mean, we always wanted to do super fun things and great things, but you know, it's just a series of decisions, like how are we staying in business and how are we growing the business? How can we do things? What's our motto? Our motto is probably, we decided one day it's probably something along the lines of, we'll do anything for money.
Yeah.
Just not what you're thinking. No, I'm just kidding. No, we build crazy things, and so people come to us. You can search online. You can search giant Eddie Murphy head, and you can see the picture of this 13-foot tall Eddie Murphy head, or you can look up the Black Pearl or whatever. If you walk across our shop floor, 90% of what we're doing is something we've never done before in terms of like a specific project. And so people just call us to do crazy things. The Eddie Murphy head was to promote a movie. They might be building a playground for a children's area. We just finished an interior space, in Fresno for an area for, it's a government agency that works with protected children in abusive family situations. They try to reunite families, and so it's a children's space that we themed. We're also going to be working on a project at the Children's Museum in Paso Robles here, and some of our work's already featured there with a fire truck playset. And anyway, so we just do all kinds of crazy things. So that's what I kind of mean. We'll do anything for money. We're just the crazy builders, and I guess we're kind of born figure outers. That probably goes back to, my brother and I. Well, I have two brothers, but we grew up on a ranch, and we had, 80 horses when my dad passed away in early 2000. But all our lives, it's like wake up before school, feed the horses, go to school.
Yeah.
I go to football practice, come home, work till dark. We're just a hard-working, poor ranching family, earning a living by the sweat of our brows. And you don't hire a gardener in those situations, and you don't hire a carpenter to build your fence. And when the horses break a water line, you don't call a plumber. You do it all because you can't afford it, and there's no other choice.
Right.
And so, by the time my brothers and I were 18, we're all three of us, carpenters and plumbers and mechanics and electricians and horse trainers and welders and, all of those things, because those are the things that we did. I have pictures of my brothers and I on top of the barn roof putting down shingles. We're, I don't know, like 9 years old, and we're swinging a hammer and we're nailing down shingles, and they're still there to this day. But that's how we grew up, this ranching family. And by the way, anytime we get an application from somebody that mentions that they grew up on a ranch, we're like, hire that person because they're figure outers. They do things. They just do so many different things, and that's who we are. We're figure outers on these crazy things, and we can't figure out how to do it the second time right. We got to figure out how to do it the first time right.
Right.
And as an example to kind of drive that concept home, we had a big lawn on the ranch, and customers would come to see their horses on the weekend, and we wanted the lawn to look nice, and the flower beds to be weeded and things to look, fences to be painted, their horse to be clean and happy. That was our living. My dad was a horse trainer, and we were horse breeders and did show horses, things like that. So it had to look nice for our customers. And so, but lawnmowers don't always work. Sometimes they break.
Right.
So what do you do if you're, I don't know, say you're 13 years old and the lawnmower broke and your job was to mow about a 2-acre lawn?
Either you know how to fix it, or you get a push mower.
Right. Well, what do you do when the riding lawnmower is broken, or the push and the push mower is broken? Well, here's a scenario I'll play out that happened on the ranch, and this is a true story, and it happened more than once. Go to my dad and I'd say, "Hey, Dad, sorry, I know I'm supposed to mow the lawn, but sorry, the lawnmower's broken. It's not my fault." Well, my dad was John Wayne, right? So in many ways, the cowboy, the tough guy, about as cuddly as a barbed wire fence. And, but he was fair and he loved us, and we worked hard. We were a close family, so don't get me wrong. He wasn't abusive, but we had to work hard.
Yeah.
But how would John Wayne respond to that kind of a statement? Well, my dad's response was, I didn't ask you about the status of the lawnmower. I asked you to mow the lawn, and I know I raised a smarter kid than that, and I know you have some potential. Yeah. And so you're perfectly welcome to fix the lawnmower if that's how you'd like to solve your problem. But I don't care if you have to chew that grass. It needs to be short come Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So come back and let me know when the job's done. And that was our life. I'm not kidding. Like we had to do that. And there was one time that I remember where I actually literally got out of mowing the lawn.
Mm.
Okay, the lawnmowers were broken. I asked the neighbors to borrow their lawnmower. I worked all day to try to fix the lawnmower. And at 11 o'clock at night, I was out there in the middle of this big lawn with the hedge trimmers, these big scissors, and I'm chopping the grass. And of course that's a ridiculous concept because there's no way possible that I'm gonna trim all that grass. But my dad wasn't kidding when he said I wasn't allowed to give up.
Right.
So I didn't give up. I did everything I could, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just do this. And I don't know when this is going to end. I really didn't. And some people thought my dad was pretty hard on us for that, but you know, it's in those pressure cookers where you really develop that kind of testicular fortitude that gets you like at a different level in life.
Yeah.
And my dad came out at 11 o'clock at night and put his arm around me and he said, I guess we'll skip the lawnmower tomorrow, or we'll skip the lawn this week. Come on in for dinner. And that's one time I got out of it. But you know, being an employer nowadays, we have, you know, about 50 people on our team, and I have an appreciation for what he had to go through, you know, running the ranch. There's things that had to get done.
Right.
And yeah, sometimes things are hard to get done. So what do you do when things are hard? You just quit? Well, then the customers just take their horses home, and then we don't make a living. So you had to work harder. You just had to figure it out. You had to make things happen. And, you know, he also always kept us industrious as kids. If we looked bored, you know, we had our free time. If we got our work done, we had our free time. If we were bored with our free time, say we're in the house watching TV or watching cartoons, you know, that my dad would go like, hey, boys, you look bored.
Yeah.
Come here, I got a flower bed that needs weeding or something. There's always more work to do.
Right.
So if we were industrious with our free time, well, you know, he was proud of us. So we would build forts and we'd do some crazy things and, you know, custom, you know, sand rails or, you know, whatever we would do super fun things and stayed industrious with our time. And it was fun, but it also kept us out of some other kind of busy work. But, you know, nowadays, that lawnmower story, I have, you know, we take on these jobs and sometimes our employees don't quite know what to do.
Right.
But, you know, I try to share that lesson with them in a fair way, of course. But I can't tell you how many times people have come to my office to let me know that they can't do a job because some obstacle faces them. But that doesn't get us out of our contract with our customer.
Right.
That doesn't get us a free extension of our deadlines for the job.
Do you funnel your father when that happens?
I channeled him, yeah. I try to be fair with it.
Well, I thought I hired a.
Well, kind of, right? But you know, it goes like this, you know, that speech about the lawnmower broken, it takes on, I can't do the job because the lawnmower is broken. Mm-hmm. That speech takes on many different forms,
Right.
but it has the same framework.
Yeah.
And when you distill it down to its fundamental, you might have a bumper sticker that's been repeated several times, and I teach this to my employees. It sounds something like this. It goes, hey, Ron, I can't do the job right, so I have to do it wrong. I just came to tell you before I mess it all up. You know, sorry, Dad, I can't mow the lawn, so we have to do it wrong. And I just let you know as though it's kind of like somehow that absolves the responsibility.
Right.
And so when I explain that to an employee that might give me a speech why they can't do something because of some obstacle, they think I'm about to kind of blow up on them. And to be, you know, and I understand why they're coming like that, but it's blunt. It's a blunt conversation. It's a teaching moment. And so I tell them, you know, listen, our customers don't accept that. And we can't do a job wrong because some reason we can't do it right. We accepted a job. We took a deposit. We have a contract. Mm-hmm. We have to do it right. And so we have to figure out a way. So don't come here and explain it has to be done wrong, because that should be a non-option.
Right.
And it certainly is if you start doing things wrong, then you're not going to be in business very long, and you can end up sued, all kinds of different things. And, you know, I tell them also, listen, I'm a figure outer, and I'm sure I could probably go out there and figure that out. But respectfully, if I have to figure it out and do it myself, why do I need you? And so your job as an employee is to be a valuable team player. We all are. Anybody under the Daniels Woodland umbrella is a valuable team member that needs to contribute according to their value that we expect, so that we have success. And so I tell them, listen, I'm not trying to set up like a hopeless situation. What I want you to do, it's not to say that we're not going to encounter challenges, But a challenge doesn't give us a right to quit. So I'd rather you say, instead of I have to do it wrong, I'd rather you say, hey, Ron, I'm having trouble figuring this out. Can we put our heads together and maybe we can come up with a solution that I can then do? And that's completely different, right?
Right.
I want to do it. Will you help me? And can we pull together as a team? And I let them know that's what I expect you to do with problems. And this is the same lesson for my kids.
Yeah.
It's not I quit because it's hard. It's I'm having trouble. Can we pull together as a team and find a way through? And will you, and if we can teach anybody on our team that has that kind of attitude, or any child who's growing up that takes on that attitude, that's what opens doors. That's how you forge a future out of grit and fortitude, not out of luck or what have you.
Right.
Because if you rely on luck or these other factors that are not your grit and fortitude, you're probably just going to end up, I don't know, you're not realizing your full potential, not doing as well as you could. And that's a bigger tragedy. It was Calvin Coolidge who said something to the effect of, perhaps one of the greatest commodities in the United States of America is unrealized potential.
Yeah.
Unrealized potential. And that's an irritating thought, because God gives us potential, and what we do with it, that's our give back to him. And it seems like such a waste when we don't do our best with who we can be. Right. It's such a waste when we don't realize our potential. And, so we want to make a conference room. Man, we have a potential to do some crazy stuff.
Right.
And I'm so proud of this conference room.
Dude, it's impressive.
And there's a lot of arguing and a lot of like can't do it right. I have to do it wrong. Or, we have to figure it out. This did not happen by accident. There's a lot of hard work and wrestling the problems and like finding solutions. So I'm really proud of that. And, that's my vision and my heart for who Daniels Woodland is and what I want our team to be and the example that I hope we set. I hope others look to and find inspiration and behind that. So
yeah. You were nice enough to give me a tour, and one of the things I mentioned while I was setting this equipment up was everybody looked busy. And now when you told me that story, like, okay, that makes sense. Like, if there's, you're busy. If you're bored, you're going to be put to work, right?
Right.
So why not just control what you what you're doing by just being, active and, figuring
and it's hard.
out.
A lot of people go, think, gosh, the talent. They go, the talent of Daniels Woodland, the talent of the people. And there are some talented people here. I know, in no way would I ever go, overboard and disrespect and say they're not talented. But what I want people to realize is they have that, back to that unrealized potential concept. People have a lot more talent than they're aware of.
Oh yeah.
And if we just have like excitement and enthusiasm and desire, like I'll take that any day over somebody who's got years of experience and not much drive. I'd much rather have somebody who's got, just that drive and that sparkle in their eye, because that you can do something with. I would never say my employees are like trained animals, but there's an interesting story that I saw this dog trainer one time. He had this pack of dogs, like 30 dogs, and he was a performer. And these dogs did the most incredible things, what he had them do, and just how witty and charming and playful they all were, but the behaviors that they could do and how they walk tight ropes and do things that was like, wow, I couldn't get an 8-year-old kid to do that. and what these dogs were doing was incredible. And his story was interesting because he said that all these dogs were rescues.
Wow.
They were all from the pound, from the rescues, and to see what they turned into when they were thrown away. And he said he just has one criteria when he picks a dog. It's not the breed. It's none of that stuff. Is he takes a ball into the dog pound, he holds the ball up. And any dog that looks at that ball and follows it wherever he raises it, when the dog studies and watches and focuses on that ball, he's like, okay, I'll take that dog, because that dog has focus and attention and heart and desire to engage. And if I can get that, I can create this with those dogs. Right. And our employees, if they have heart and desire and focus and they want to do things, we can turn them into sculptors. We can turn them into welders. We can turn them into animatronic creators, mold makers, show tellers, and storytellers. Like, and make them a critical part of the team. And so I'll take somebody with heart and desire any day over somebody with mad skill and a bad attitude.
How do you find how do you find that though? Because for the example you used was a dog with a ball, right? What's your ball? What do you do?
Well, I mean, we
Like
have
a
an
series
interview
of
process.
questions, yeah.
I mean, we just want to know who they are and the drives and the heart and the desire.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. But certainly, there's some qualifications that are come into play. Like I said a minute ago, if somebody comes to us that grew up on a ranch,
Yeah.
okay, I already know that they know how to fix fences and wrench on tractors and probably weld some things and nail some boards together, some things like that. They've had to figure some things out. And so, they have a lot of that foundation that we can build from. But a lot of there's a creativity and enthusiasm are just such great qualities that trump just about anything else, because you can acquire, you can learn how to do things if you want to.
Yeah.
But if somebody does come to us with experience, if they can fit in the team, we love that, of course.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I worked on the Disney, sculpted this rock work in the new Star Wars land. Oh, heck yeah, dude, you're on board. If you can do that. So there's a different talent pool in Paso Robles than you'd find in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, you have the whole Hollywood industry. There's a lot of prop shops and scenic fabricators. There's amusement parks.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that, a lot of those skills and stuff down in Los Angeles. So we're kind of a little bit of a fish out of water in that regard, because we're in this, we're just like a little ways away from Los Angeles. But we have been blessed to find some incredible talent over the years. And it is interesting because Daniels Woodland, at the end of the day, we have a great building, and we've got some really great equipment, table saws and water jets and some CNC equipment and a great welding shop, all these different things. It's a maker's paradise in here. But Daniels Woodland is not the equipment that we have. Okay, Daniels Woodland is the people that are here. It's the combined talent of our people and what they know how to do with that equipment. And so sometimes we have our rock stars. We've been around as long as we have. We're gonna lose some good employees, whether they're done working, they're retiring, or family things, they move.
Yeah.
COVID, that period during COVID, and California's been like kind of put in a shaker and just shook all up, and how the new dust settles. Lots of people moving away. Lots of people took different jobs. It's been a different time. And so we lost, several really great long-term employees that help us become who we are. And it's like losing a right arm. It's like losing an appendage.
Yeah.
And how you mentioned, like, what do we do? Well, you know what? We have to find some new talent and grow a new arm that's a little bit different. Because some of these guys, that when they leave us, you don't replace that. They're some really super unique individuals. You never replace it, but we find some new talent. And so I guess if you want to get like this Star Trek analogy, we're like the Borg, right? We add their uniqueness to our collective. Are anybody a Trekkie on there, But it's true, we have this. We add their uniqueness to their collective, and we try to assimilate them, and hopefully they don't resist. So that's so funny.
Do you where do you find inspiration besides just create? You mentioned everything you've done you've never done before, or a lot of the things you do you haven't done before. Where do you find inspiration from? Because we went to your brother's like work area, I pointed out, hey, he has cartoons playing the whole time.
Oh my gosh, yeah, of course he does. Yeah, he literally plays cartoon in his little carving cabana workshop that he has out there. That's true. Where do you find inspiration from? Well, we live in such a great day and age where there's so many resources to find inspiration.
Right.
I think it's an easy thing to do compared to, say 30, 40 years ago before the internet, when you try to do like some kind of report, you had the set of encyclopedias on the shelf. It's like, that's like the internet back then, or what book. So if you want to do something pirates, you go to the library and you look up a book or something. Like, how do you how do you get all that inspiration? You got to work a lot harder. Now you can just Google some things.
Oh,
Heck,
yeah.
you can even tell the AI image. You can
To
just
create an image for you,
Yeah.
and then you just the concept.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, last week, you know, by the way, how do you the process of how do you do your creatives? It's evolving so fast right now, and you better stay up with the times, or you're going to look like a dork, you know, in front of the competition or to your customer.
Yeah.
And it's like AI is this huge thing now, and what you can do. So we had literally a hand drawn rendering of this set piece with some animatronic characters. It's got some penguins, you know, ice skating on some ice, and it's going to be triggered with the RFID bracelet called Interact control system that we have, and it's going to be triggered with it. But there's this nice 3/4 angle shot hero image concept rendering that we created, our artist created, to share the customer, and then from there we go, you know, this thing is going to be this dimension, it's going to be made out of these materials, and it's going to have these many animatronic characters. So we define its highlights, so there's a set of deliverables and boxes that it will check, and that's how we communicate, because obviously customers going to, you know, they have an idea in their head and it doesn't exist yet, it's a brand new thing, never made it before, so the drawing helps a lot, you know, so that we're both looking at the same North Star, right?
Yeah.
Well, we took this drawing and fed it into the AI program. It's a pencil line drawing. And we said, can you make a photorealistic image of what this will look like in real life when we make it? We didn't do any description like, oh, needs to be
Just
ice.
small prompt.
Nope, no prompts. Just
Oh.
make this look photorealistic
Okay.
based on what you see in this drawing. And this thing kicked out an image that's like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what the photo is going to look like. I'm telling you, It was mind-boggling, and we hurried and sent that to the customer, and they bought the thing. They went ahead and placed their order because it looked amazing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, how do you do creativity and inspiration? It's a moving thing nowadays, and so it's interesting, to say the least. But it's so powerful what you can do now.
Yeah.
You know, the concept in Monterey when we did Treasure Hunt the Ride, I mentioned that a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, okay, we found this space came available. Anybody who's been to Monterey before, it's where the old wax museum was, in the 700 building right next to Bubba Gump's on Cannery Row. It's the first Bubba Gump's ever, you know, that was ever made, actually, to be incidentally. But, well, we got the space, and we're like, what should we do in there? And we were like, you know, the space was offered to us. So we started thinking, what should we do? Well, you know, we want to do some experience. And then we thought we should make a dark ride. A dark ride, by the way, it's not like a evil concept. A dark ride is, Pirates of the Caribbean might have been the first dark ride. You know, it's an indoor kind of ride where you control the environment, control the lightings and things like that, so that you can, you know, really define that experience. Walt Disney was a pioneer with his dark ride. The original one was Pirates of the Caribbean. But, you know, you've seen plenty of dark rides. That's just kind of a category of attractions. You got roller coasters, dark rides, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, we decided we should make a dark ride in this space. What should it be like? We're like, well, we're by the coast, by the aquarium. You know, pirates is a really low-hanging fruit. And it's kind of cliche. But then again, you know, pirates are really an evergreen theme. And so we go to Google and we're like, is there any pirate stuff related to Monterey? Boom, we find out about this pirate. His name was Hippolyte Bouchard. And he sacked Monterey and he kidnapped the town drunk named Molina. Like, this is ubiquitous. You can find this information online. Without the internet, I don't know how I would have found. I'm not sure. I would have maybe gone to the library in Monterey and, you know, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That would have taken weeks to figure out what we found out in just a couple of minutes with a quick Google search. And so that started laying the groundwork for it. But man, nowadays you could probably go to, you know, ChatGPT or Grok or one of these things, and you could probably go, hey, develop a backstory for a dark raid based on pirates that attacked Monterey in the basement of the 700 building in Cannery Row. And it'll probably, you know, it'll generate some really interesting concepts.
Yeah.
And, but you know, it's not the end all be all, because AI is not there yet, but man, it sure comes up with some great ideas.
Right.
Or I might write a script and feed it through AI and go, what do you think of this? You know, give me some critiques, and then it'll give some back. And so it's great. It's a really great tool. But it's not a substitute. They're not there yet.
I've actually used it to write a mock up or like a questionnaire for like, because I was trying to figure out if I want to be like an interviewer, like a true interviewer, like have like flashcards or something, or just ask random questions, right? And I did back and forth, and it felt so like it looked scripted, obviously, because I was reading and doing looking at the camera or whatever. But I ask it all the time, like, hey, what if I do this? And it'll literally, and I even activate the voice part of it. Hey, man, how's it going today? So I'm just like, oh, it's good. As I'm driving to the studio, I'm just like, hey, I want to talk to you about marketing the studio a little bit better. It's like, oh, what do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus? It's just talking me right through the whole thing. And I'm just like, we're best friends, man. We're best friends.
Yeah, I know, right? Jeez. We're gonna be stuck in mom's basement forever, like because especially with AI, because you have like this friend now for sure. No, I've played with it many times, marketing plans for whatever. My brother, that's not the partner brother, my other brother, he just moved to Florida, with his wife, and he called me up and he's like, I was thinking of renting a boat. There's so many Airbnb houses around here, and there's all these waterways. But it's really hard to rent a boat. I was thinking of renting a boat. How would you do a business plan, Ron, for a boat? I'm like, well, I'd go to AI and I'd say exactly what you just told me and see what it said. And he goes, well, how do you do that? So I told him, how to download a specific app for some AI tools. And he called me the next day. He's like, oh my gosh, you cannot believe this thing. It told me to do this, this, and this, and all this stuff. He goes, it's so clear.
Yeah.
And so it was amazing. Gosh, you'd pay a business consultant a lot of money for what those things can crank out. So yeah, it is a really good tool. You better use. I would caution anybody, to be careful on how they use AI as well, because you can kind of smell it, you can kind of tell what it is.
Yeah.
You can tell a zebra by its stripes, kind of thing. And so customers know, people are starting to know a lot about it, and they understand the concept of AI and things like that. So if you abuse it, and and then you just like, or you lean on it too hard, and you're not, it's not a license to be lazy.
Right.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's because if you just do all AI and you show it to them, they're going to go, this is all done by AI. This guy didn't do anything.
It doesn't sound like him. It doesn't.
There's no part of this that's from him.
Right.
He's trying to hold himself out an expert, but it's AI stuff. And honestly, you know what? I actually had somebody try that on me.
Oh, really?
Where they were trying to sell me like a marketing tool, or it was something like that. And no, I'm sorry, it was an interview. I was interviewing for a job, and the question was, I asked people to send me like, why do you want to work here? And it's just simple question, why do you want to work here? And the response came back. There were so many things off base. I'm like, this is so AI generated. This is so AI.
Yeah.
And I didn't hire that person because that wasn't they didn't answer the question. The chat GPT answered the question, and it was like, okay, don't yank my chain. So be careful with it.
It's funny because like I've used it a few times, then I tweak it, however I need it, kind of thing.
Yep.
But copy and paste is probably not the best move. Apparently, eventually AI will get to the point where it's almost like you can't tell if it, if you talk to AI constantly, it's learning a little bit about you every single time, right? So eventually it'll tailor the responses a little bit better. But on the other side, I feel like there should be already an AI checker. Like if there's another software that you can submit.
There are 100%.
Kind of like a teacher plagiarism. They submit the homework and then they submit it online. And online, it's like, oh, we found it in this way here.
Yeah. But one of the things like that, just as an example of how it's been helpful and real quick is, just looking at the ride. We have a Google review where somebody does a review, and Yeah, there were this one this one person was just like ridiculously critical of the ride. But you know what? People are entitled to their opinions. But
Right.
it was just awful, kind of what they were saying.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a nice response, but I kind of wanted to be a little bit of a clever pirate tone. And so instead of trying to figure out how to spend all my time how to sound like a pirate, I just wrote like, okay, this is what I want to say, how I want to respond it. And then I took it to ChatGPT and I pasted it in there. I said, rewrite this in a pirate tone, a clever and playful pirate tone that's still respectful to the guest review. Paste, and it came back. It was just perfect. It was like, "Arr, we struck a reef now, me hearties. It seems your voyage wasn't as good as it should have been." You know, like it was some clever stuff, and so like add a pirate tone to what I wanted to say, and so that's what I mean by it's just a great tool.
Do you see yourself integrating AI to talk to customers who are on tours and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that just seeing what's like coming down the pipeline, you know, in the next 10 to 15, maybe 20 years where we're going to be, gosh, you know, Elon Musk thinks we're all going to have like personal robot assistants. You know, he's talking about his Optimus robot and you know, he's working on it. Like, you know, it's like it reminds me of that movie that we watched, you know, the iRobot movie. You know, it's crazy. So that I could see that coming, you know, eventually because of the things that we're doing. I don't know where that's going to go, but the immediate applications of that of AI, like one of the things you can do, and a lot of places are doing it. So we make our electronic shooting galleries, right?
Yeah.
And so these are some technical things, and so there's tech issues, and so owners or customers will call and ask questions. They'll email. We have our owner's manual. And if you have a written record of all of those interactions, right?
Yeah.
That's years long, you can feed that into the AI tool, an AI plugin, and create a live online chat deal.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the questions that our customers are asking, it's the same thing over and over. And half the time when I'm helping somebody, you know, with tech issues on their shooting galleries, I'm literally leaning back in my chair with my feet up on the table, and I'm clicking on and I open up the troubleshooting guide in my manual, and I go, do we have all of the devices listed on the network? Yes, no. Are you seeing scoring and hearing sound? Yes or no? And I can ask about 3 questions and then go, oh, okay, this is your problem.
Right.
And it's because I have devised this troubleshooting guide that I put a lot of thought through. Well, the AI plugin, you can feed it all that information, and a lot of times my job with the customer is just holding their hands and reading to them the same document that they have in their possession.
Right.
But they spent some money with us and they want a little help, but I show them how to find it it's not so much I'm teaching them how to use their shooting galleries. I'm teaching them how to use their troubleshooting guide and teaching them that, hey, look, it's right there. Next time, you can call me if you want, but it's right there if you want to save yourself some time. I'm not always available, but I will be if I am. But if I'm not available, this is a great way to help yourself. So an AI tool can be that, right? It can you can teach it all of your stuff, your history, and it can be that assistant that gets a job done for you, and it saves you. From my perspective, it saves me labor and it serves our customer. Another concept that I mentioned a minute ago. These characters that we've developed, they're like my friends.
Yeah.
Like Melina's like,
Melina
is mi amigo.
Yeah.
Oh, Melina, he's my amigo. And so I thought would be kind of rad to do would be like to create an AI character that speaks with Melina's tone.
Yeah.
That could be, that people can interact with on our website. They went on the ride, they saw Melina and they saw Bouchard, and Bouchard could be an ornery pirate who's like, give me back my gold,
Yeah.
You think you could steal my treasure?
Yeah.
And Melina's like, run, mis amigos, the Kraken is coming. Oh my goodness. So Melina's, he's our friend. And so like what if we created these AI bots that just people can interact with? Hey, Melina, what's it like to live in Cannery Row Cavern and have Bouchard chase you all day?
Yeah.
It could be kind of fun.
He just pops up on the website on the side and he goes, hey.
Yeah, exactly.
you know?
Exactly. You have any more tequila? Yeah, so he's a cool guy. AI is a really interesting concept. Another area, that I was speaking with somebody on my team. So we're it, if you ever come to Daniel's Woodland and just like I show you like everything that we do, it just really boggles the mind. Schools love coming here and going on tours because I'm like,
Okay.
who's interested in being an artist? Okay, we have all this stuff over here. Who wants to be a welder? Well, here we have some welders over there, and the number of different trades here are just crazy. Artists, carpenters, electricians, salespeople, engineering,
Yeah.
architects, project management, accounting, bookkeeping. Well, we also have some programming and some software stuff I mentioned a minute ago about tech supporting our shooting galleries. Well, we wrote an entire piece of software. It's called Bang. Bang's the control software for our shooting galleries. Bang communicates with all the animatronic controllers that are networked together to drive and control all of the motions in the shooting galleries. These are circuit boards that we designed and created, and we manufacture them. And this is like, we're vertically integrated. To build a shooting gallery, you need carpenters and mechanics and electronic engineers, factories to produce the electronics, software engineers to write the code and debug things. I early on, remember I said we're born figure outers.
Yeah.
Well, what got me into this mess was shooting galleries. You mentioned I should all these different things. Okay, I'll tie it all together. Remember a minute ago, you're like, did you ever think it was going to be this like Daniel's Woodland was going to be that?
Yeah.
And the answer was no. Well, you know what a Farsi is? A Farsi, okay, is this this hillbilly way of reckoning. A Farsi is as far as you can see, and you can navigate based on Farsis. You can go, to get to Grandpappy's Steel, you go 3 Farsi to the way the sun sets, and you turn left at the third red rock, go another Farsi to the south, and then go one more Farsi up to the next hilltop. But you ain't there yet, but you're about to get there, and then you take another Farsi over to the way the sun rises, and then you're going to be there. So Farsi is as far as you can see, and you can go certain Farsis.
Yeah.
So our journey with Daniel's Woodland, from where we started to where we've arrived today, is really just kind of going like a whole series of Farsis. And we go one Farsi, and then we think we were going to go another one, but we go in a different direction in a different Farsi. And so it's like, what are we going to do? How are we going to navigate and keep this business going? We started building tree houses, of course, and wood carvings. And then it was like, can you make my restaurant look like that tree house?
Yeah.
And so pretty soon we're doing some theming projects, and then these tree houses were residential. Well, can you do commercial ones? So then we had that next Farsi is like, we had to figure out how to make commercial playgrounds that don't get kids hurt, that's going to comply with building codes, and these different things. And we're these figure outers. That's who we are. And one of the Farsis that we did is, I saw a shooting gallery. Actually, my brother and I were at the fair, the Mid-State Fair.
Yeah.
We had a tree house and some carvings there, and we weren't selling anything. It was miserable, and we spent quite a bit of money just for the opportunity to put our products there. Nothing was selling. And about probably the 50th drunk cowboy of the day comes stumbling and slobbering into our booth, and, man, I'll tell you what, ting, those tree houses sure are spectacular. If I ever win the lottery, I'm gonna buy me one of them tree houses. But I'm like, but I need to sell a treehouse now. and I'm just going, look, I love these guys. They're so friendly.
Yeah.
They love our stuff, and they mean well. They just can't afford it. It's not for everybody.
Right.
But they sure like it. And I looked at my brother and I said, man, I'll tell you what, if we could ever get a couple of dollars out of everybody that just thinks our stuff is cool, we might be on to something. And then, I would say a month later or whatever, I was at Disneyland and I saw the shooting gallery, and I looked at the shooting gallery and I was like, that's just a themed environment, and we make themed environments, but that themed environments has dollar bill acceptors attached to it. And that, by golly, is how you can get a couple of dollars out of everybody that thinks their stuff is cool.
Yeah.
So I just became fascinated by shooting galleries and just started digging and researching and figuring it out, and teamed up with a company that built shooting galleries. And I built my first shooting gallery that I owned and operated. but I wanted to do the theming. I just wanted the control system from that company.
Right.
And it was great. It took off. And then I got a contract for another shooting gallery. And I took a deposit. I was probably $50,000 out of pocket. This is like over 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of a contract, I had a deadline to build the shooting gallery, and I was ready to buy the control system. And so I called the shooting gallery company that I had worked with, and I said, I need to buy another control system for my next shooting gallery. And they said, you know what? We're afraid you're going to turn into competition. And I said, well, I'm just building these for myself and putting them in locations on revenue shares. I'm not selling them.
Right.
I'm doing on a revenue share. And he was like, well, that's okay. We're just not going to sell to you. And I begged him. I said, just sell to me one more time and I won't make a shooting gallery after that. But I'm neck deep in this one. There ain't no turning back. And he's like, well, I understand your plight, but you're on your own. And I said, if I'm on my own, I'm going to have to make my own system. And then I'm going to own my own system. And then respectfully, like, why would I not build shooting galleries? And he said, are you threatening me? And I said, no, I'm not at all. But anyway, he said, have a nice life. So I said, okay. So, man, we had to make our own shooting gallery control system from scratch. And how the heck do you do that? There ain't no book written somewhere on how to make a shooting gallery control system. And so our team came together and we figured it out. And we designed the software and the hardware and we prototyped it and we delivered it. And now we're the #1 shooting gallery builder in the world. And I never went after to run anybody out of business. Our stuff survived. I sell our stuff based on its merits. I don't sell it based on like theirs is horrible
comparison.
And ours is great. Yeah. I just say I think ours is the best, and here's why. Mm-hmm. And I explain the different features that we've created, and so now we're the #1 shooting gallery in the world, builder in the world. In fact, we're working on a deal with Bass Pro Shops right now where we're about to land the contract. I shouldn't probably say it, but anyways, I shouldn't jinx it. But we're hopefully going to be rebuilding their whole fleet of over 100 locations and shooting galleries. So that's years of work for 70 or 80 people. But anyhow, it's figure outing, and it's a series of farces. I thought it'd be fun to make a shooting gallery. I didn't intend to be the #1 shooting gallery builder in the world, but that was the next farce. And so here we are. That's how Daniels Wood then came to be. And tying it full circle to the AI thing, we're now doing this Interact. It's a control system that's different. It's a little bit different than our shooting gallery control system. So we're developing this new hardware and this new software. And you can go to AI and you can give it the parameters of a program that you need written, your software, and what you want it to do.
Right. Yeah.
And it can kick you out some code, some computer code generation that is elegant and beautiful and doesn't cost any labor. It's mind-boggling. And so the modern day computer programmers, they're going to be evolving to a different role. I suppose it might be what the cotton gin did for picking cotton. like it's not going to be hand picked anymore. It's not going to be hand coded anymore. Like, because you're going to have this AI stuff that's going to do it for you, and it's going to be beautiful. And so, that's another modern day things that are happening. So it's fascinating, where things are headed. So the current Farsi, we're working on that Interact, and we're working on a fleet of shooting galleries and things like that. So
and you're working on getting a tour program going, right?
Yeah, eventually we have quite a bit more property. We developed our headquarters here to be it's a purpose-built facility for what we need. We have a lot of spare property. And so half of it we want to finish developing. The undeveloped portion on the north half, we have plans in play to build a mini storage facility. And the reason why we like that is probably it's just that hedge, right? Because we build things that people don't really need, and every time we finish a job, we've worked ourselves out of a job, and we got to go find a new customer.
Right.
That's kind of the construction industry in general, right? If you have a customer and you build them a house, they're like, "Thanks for the house, and we're going to live in it now, and you got to go find another job."
Yeah.
So the mini storage facility is that's kind of a hedge for the cycles of business, as well as it's just so boring which is what's so beautiful about it. It's like one employee to run the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so, so we're going to do that. And then once we get that done, we're going to turn back and continue to develop more parts of Daniels Woodland facility. I have some master development plans. We're going to be developing like a 5,000 square foot indoor space. It's a ballroom. And we're going to have probably about a 15,000 square foot outdoor space. There'll be some tree houses and some facades and just outdoor space. And then, we have a train that's going to go all the way, around the whole property so we can go on proper tours.
Yeah.
One of these days. We just have to finish laying out the track and the loop. It's going to be a lot of fun with that. The train's got a really interesting story. Here's my brother, right?
Mm.
He comes to me one day when we're building our building. He says, "Ron, I think we should have a train." And I'm like, "Man, we have work to do. We got to get this building built. We have our lease where we're at. It's coming due.
Yeah.
We're over budget on all these. What are you talking about? A train? Like, how does that pay our bill?"
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of hung his head low. But listen, like, man, I hate being the adult for both of us. And then so I shot it down. But he came to me a couple weeks later and he goes, "Ron," he goes, "Man, I found this train. It's really cool looking." He showed me a picture of it and I was like, that is a cool train. And it had a history. By the way, I love history. A lot of what Daniels Woodland does, we have this old stuff because it tells a story. I try to talk to my customers like, okay, imagine two horseshoes. One of them's brand new shiny horseshoe that you just buy at the farm supply. And the other one's like worn halfway and it's bent and it's got bent nails and caked in horse turds and got, it's a used horseshoe, Which one of those is more interesting?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, it goes without saying, but the used horseshoe has a spirit that the brand new one just doesn't have yet. It hasn't earned its stripes. The old horseshoe might have been on a galloping pony that's running over the hills in the Pony Express, getting chased by bandits and then Indians and delivered the mail on time.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some story.
Yeah.
And you don't need any words. You can just really. So here's this old train. And this train was made by same company that two World War II soldiers came home, from the war in the 40s, and they created this amusement company. Kind of like, it's near and dear to my heart, right? Because my brother and I kind of have this thing.
Yeah.
And they created this company to build like carousels and amusement things, and they got a big break. They ended up landing a contract for Walt Disney. They built the Pirates of the Caribbean ride system, and a lot of the ride systems on opening day for Disneyland, Autopia, and some of these other different rides. And Walt came to them and said, I have an idea for a crazy roller coaster. Now, in those days, roller coasters were just, they were like little miniature trains, and the tracks were like I-beams.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do too many G-forces, it's just going to fly off the track.
Right.
You can't turn too sharp or too hard. Well, nowadays we have roller coasters that do a lot more than the old days. Well, Walt's project was the Matterhorn, and he wanted to do this crazy thing. And so this company came up with a tubular track system for the Matterhorn for that specific project. And that ushered in a whole new generation of roller coasters, which is why we can go upside down and do corkscrews,
Right.
do all these things. Well, the same company in the 1960s made a series of train rides for amusement parks. And one of the trains they made was a famous train named Casey Jr. That's the Dumbo train, Casey Jr. You can ride it to this day at Disneyland.
Yeah.
And those, in that time, Walt owned a third of this company. And they made a series of other trains, and one of the trains that they made at the same time as Casey Jr. was our train. It's called Honest Abe. The name of the train is Honest Abe. And it was sold to a shopping center in Washington, and we learned about this whole history of this train John showed me. And so it served time in Washington, and then they bulldozed the shopping center to make way for a World's Fair and sold it to a traveling carnival that didn't make the payments. So then the owner repossessed it and threw it out in a field up in, it's like Oregon or Washington for decades.
Yeah.
And then this pumpkin farmer in Oregon found out about it and went and dug it out of the berry patch that had grown over it and brought it home, and he was restoring it, and he was going to set it up to take kids around his farm. It's a really cute looking train. Just imagine like a Dumbo circus train.
Mm-hmm.
And anyhow, unfortunately, that farmer passed away before he finished his project. And then the widow had the train, and she had it for a little while. But after she got to a point where it's okay now. I think emotionally, she put it up for sale, and that's when John found it. And the history of the train, and the looks of the train, it's just so cool. And so we bought Honest Abe, and we laid. This was like a couple of days before we're going to pour the concrete in our new building.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to pour the big concrete slab, and so we hurried and rallied our welding crew to set up a section of track that actually it'll be a spur of the railroad eventually, and it cuts through the shop, and so we set some track, so that they could pour concrete around it, and so we have the first section of track laid, and Honest Abe is sitting in our showroom. Eventually, the grand plan is we'll finish that loop around the shop.
Yeah.
And John had a way of talking me into it. It's one of those things. Again, it's that unrealized potential thing. It's why would you do that? It's like, why would you climb Mount Everest? Not because it's easy, but precisely because it's hard.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the things that we're trying to, it's our own story, but at the same time, we just got to be careful. These kinds of ambitions don't drive us into bankruptcy, because otherwise, we can't live to do another thing.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, over the long term, we have so many really cool things here that we put together as displays for our customers to come to see the kinds of things we build and sell.
Yeah.
Historically, before we had our own building, the first time they'd see something that we've finished was when their thing arrives that they bought. And that's a hard way to sell stuff.
Right.
We can bring them to the shop and we can show them work in progress, but the shop's dusty and dirty and it's not done.
Right.
And so taking them in to see the finished thing it's so compelling. And and of course, it's also fun to be able to enjoy the things we're so passionate about and that we make a living with. So, now that we have all these things for our customers to see, it's like, well, we can enjoy it on another level. When do shindigs happen? Well, they happen at nighttime or on the weekends, exactly when our shop is closed.
Yeah.
So why couldn't we put a 5,000 square foot ballroom in the airspace over our shop? And why couldn't we do an outdoor entertainment area that has some tree houses and a train going through it and some sculpted rocks and more of the kinds of things we build and sell in these themed environments? And then if we did do those things, why couldn't we have some really cool shindigs here? And the answer is you can.
You absolutely can.
You absolutely can. And we have to, we have to get the city on board with this, but that's kind of been an interesting process. We went to a city design review committee when we wanted to show them you can't just build a fence in your property, right? The city gets to tell you if they like your fence or not.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And so we went to this design review committee. And this is unelected bureaucrats. I don't know. I got the feeling like they're not even from Paso Robles. I grew up here. They're probably from LA and they come up here or whatever. And I showed them a drawing. I'm like, okay, we have our building. We want to do this fence, around our yard. We have to do a fence because of, that's code. You have to have a fence to keep people out and all that stuff. We want to build a cavalry fence. And the design review committee was like, well, why would you build a cavalry fence? And I was like, because it's cool. What are you talking about? And they're like, well, don't they fall down? And well, if you build them like a dummy, they'll fall down, I guess. Like, doesn't a car break down? That doesn't mean we don't drive a car, but, and I go, what is your concern about that? It just doesn't fit. I'm like, well, it's an light industrial complex. I mean, it's not, it's okay. Like this, there's a tow truck yard down the street from us, right?
Yeah.
Across the street is a construction company. It's Dave Spur. You're like, they've got excavators and backhoes and bulldozers and tractors. Like that's their yard.
Right.
Like this area is set aside for, kinds of things that are not necessarily like architecturally pleasing in masterpieces. but I go, but that's, I said, I wanted our place to be a medley of the kinds of things we build and sell.
Right.
And in fact, the gate that I wanted to put was not the cavalry gate. It looked like almost like more of a, I guess like a Victorian or Gothic kind of a look to it. It's this cool looking metal gate. And they're like, that doesn't go at all with the cavalry fence. And I go, that's the point. I go, man, I'm telling you right now. I go, I haven't even told you about like the giant pirate ship I'm going to put on top of the building that's battling the alien spacecraft with a train going down the middle of the whole thing. And they looked at me with a confused look on their face. And my architect leans over the table and he's like, guys, he's not kidding.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, you guys got to catch the vision. This is what we do. This is our business. It's a medley of the kinds of things we build and sell, but it'll look great. It'll look awesome precisely because it's all these unique things. It's that sweet and sour, it's that juxtaposition that kind of catches you off guard, but we'll pull it together. Like, it's what we do. And they're like, well, we're not really sure. And so I said, well, I'm not really sure. Like, you guys make the mortgage payments.
Yeah.
I'm sure I do. And I'm the one who makes the property tax payments. So, and they said, well, Mr. Daniels, we don't know if we can come to an agreement. And I said, it doesn't sound much like it, but if you want to talk anymore, I'll be at home building my fence. So we went and built it, and we never heard from them, but I probably pushed my luck a little bit. Yeah. So I'm sure when we go put this event thing together, you're going to have to convince the city, like they're going to want to know the impacts of it. Like, do you have enough parking? How big are the events going to be? And all that kind of stuff. And of course, they're gonna want their pound of flesh in the form of more money for the permit fees.
Yeah.
But that's I understand why you have to have codes and things. So don't get me wrong, but it can be really hard to just do the kinds of things you want to do, because these external forces are going to impose their opinions on us. But I guess that's the price of living in a collective society. But it'll be cool when we get it done.
Yeah.
We'll pull it off. It'll be cool. It'll be spectacular. Eventually we'll get there. So
yeah, especially for Paso, where everybody drives through here or to here because of the wineries now, and Sensorio is one attraction, and now this I feel is going to be like one of the big things. There's like what's that one? The 7 wonders of the world. Like, you're going to be one of the 7 wonders of Paso Robles.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when we had our TV series, it was interesting because people would show up just randomly all the time.
Yeah.
Because they saw our series, and it really inspired. I loved it because how many people called us. Like, we had moms call us. They're like, "Oh my gosh, your TV series is such a blessing. My husband and our son are out there building a treehouse right now because of how you inspired him.
Yeah.
Thank you." For doing that. And I love those kinds of stories. We had a veteran who's like, he was a disabled veteran. He emailed us. He said he'd been unemployed for years and on the brink of homelessness. But he started, he had PTSD really, really bad. He started chainsaw carving and started a business because of what he saw my brother doing. And, I was on a job in Europe, actually, in the UK. And so some of those jobs, it was installing a shooting gallery. So on those kinds of things, it was a cool place to go. So my wife and I went and we did the installation. Yeah. And then of course it was 3 days of work, but we needed about 14 days to recover our strength enough to come home. So we toured around. We ended up on like a 4-day cruise, and we were on a dinner cruise with the Eiffel Tower in the background.
Oh wow!
And met some American people, and they're like, "What do you do?" Talking. I go, "We build crazy things, and we have a TV series. We mentioned about it." And they're like, "Oh, that sounds cute." Like, you could tell they didn't believe me. I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And right about then, some British guy comes and taps on my shoulder, and just about started crying because he was a fan of our show.
I've seen you on the telly.
He's like, "I know you," and I'm like, "Oh, cool." And so these people around the table are like, "Holy cow, he's not kidding. He has a TV series on international television." And so that was kind of fun, but we had people coming from all over the world just like showing up, and we kind of became like this must-see thing for people on this California vacation. Those that knew about Redwood Kings on Animal Planet, and they would just stop by, and they're just like, "Can we have a tour?" We're like, "Well, are you here to buy something?" They're like, "No." And that was a hard thing because, just because you have a TV series doesn't mean you're done and you can retire in life.
Right.
We literally, I mean, we still had to make a living, and the jobs we were doing were real. And there, you know, you get a little bit of a talent fee, but it did not pay for the like lost productivity for the camera to say like, okay, thanks for setting that. Can you put it back down, and then so we can refilm it, redo that, and we can shoot from another angle.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes I go in my shop and I'd have 45 people being quiet while the cameras were filming an interview, and I'm like, and all these guys are on our payroll, and I'm like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So you know, it was difficult. But then when the fans started showing up, you know, they want a tour, and we're still working. We're earning a living.
Yeah.
So we had to set up times for people to come on tours. But many of them were like, this is the highlight of their vacation, was to go on a tour of Daniels Woodland. And for anybody who's any kind of a personal hobbyist or a maker or creative or whatever, or an amusement park fan, this place really is a fascinating tour. You know, I come to work here every day, and it is really cool. I can end my day with playing the Tiki Room show, and that kind of stuff. But when I go on tours, there's never a tour where it doesn't cross my mind as like, man, we built some cool stuff, and like, man, we have some cool employees, and wow, we are so blessed to live in this incredible town of Paso Robles.
Yeah.
I'm like, I go out my building, and I go outside and I stand on the sidewalk and I look to the south. It's that view of the Chandler Ranch, and it's the rolling hills with some oak trees. And then I see these cows that are eating grass. It's like happy cows come from California. And then I'm thinking of the California cheese commercial.
Yeah.
But I'm not kidding. Like there's been, especially in the springtime, I will drive over here and just park and look to the south for 10 minutes and just look at the hills.
Yeah.
Because we live in such an incredible place. Of course, anybody that's been in Paso Robles for any long period of time knows that it's really something that's kind of come on the map. And over the years, many people have come here and had that same thought process, and then they buy houses and drive our prices up, and it's hard to afford to live in the same city now that we work in.
Yeah.
Which is I hope we can figure out some ways forward in that, because I like our police officers and teachers and firefighters to be able to live in the communities they serve, and it's a bummer if they can't afford to buy a house in the places they work. But it is a beautiful place, and that's what's driving that, of course. I do love it here. Every time I go to LA, I'm like, I'm so ready to be home. You know, I get so uneasy driving in those freeways and the smog and stuff. And and it's just a couple hours away. You're in Paso Robles, and it is paradise. It's a beautiful place.
Paso Robles is going to keep growing. It's been growing, and I feel like there's a lot of people in place that will help it grow, you know, the right way. Because I feel like it's like checks and balances, right? And it's up to us too to keep those checks and balances being checked and balanced,
right?
You know, and I'm excited for what's going on with you and what's going to be down the road, Farsi and
the next Farsi,
yeah. I'm excited, man. Like, so when everything is done and ready, I'd love to come back and be like, take a video grand tour, like almost like a virtual tour.
Oh yeah,
you know, I can help with that.
Yeah,
but I'm excited because there's not a lot of stuff for kids either.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part. Bowling alley closed. The trampoline house that was going to be built kind of fell through, and you're just like, then what do we do?
Yeah.
So,
you guys, anybody like talk? It is true that bowling alley closed. In Paso Robles, it has changed so much.
Yeah.
When we moved to Paso Robles in 1983,
oh wow,
my family moved here from Bakersfield. Man, if you didn't have what you needed at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you waited till the next day. And there was one grocery store. It was Lucky's.
Lucky's. Oh,
and you know, like it kept growing. And when you did shopping and you drove to San Luis, you know, to go to Mervin's or Gottschalk's, you know, to do shopping. And of course, from San Luis, people that live in San Luis, their perspective is like Cuesta Grades, like the Canadian border, and don't nobody go north of that border.
Yeah.
You know, so we were like outer darkness in little old Paso Robles.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has changed so much, you know, with Walmart coming to town and all the different things. But it still has kept that small town charm.
Yeah.
And it is a really cool place. But we talk to our kids. We're like, man, you guys have no idea how to fun. We'd go to Rock and Bowl at Wilson's Lanes on Saturday night. It's like $5.
9 to midnight. Yeah.
That's right. It was $5. All you can bowl. You could bowl all night for $5. And so what my brothers and I would do, like we had this, we got to get our work done on the ranch.
Yeah.
But I'd hurry and get our work done. And I had a customer list, and I wash and wax their car, and I'd do a good job. Good job. My dad always, he's like, he wore iron jeans. His jeans would be ironed to the crease, and tuck your shirt in, and have some self-respect, make your bed kind of thing, which him and I always argued over. I think I won ultimately in that one. But he always had a clean truck, clean red truck. And don't care too much about what the color is as long as it's red, right?
Yeah.
We were good at cleaning trucks, washing and waxing them, and so I had customer lists, and we wash and wax a car for $25, and we did a good job. I did a really good job, and usually I had more to do than I had time to do them, and so we get that $25 and go down to Wilson's Lanes, and I'd spend $5 for bowling, and $20 in the arcade. And that was a Saturday night, and man, that was just banging. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
Then a little bit later was cruising up and down Spring Street. We got a little older, you got a car, you can cruise around, cruise night and pass all those different things. You just kind of remember all the history of the place. When there was only like one bridge that connected the east and west side of town.
Oh, Niblick? Yeah.
That was before Niblick.
Yeah. Before Niblick?
Yeah, like Highway 46 was like a 2-lane bridge that crossed it was a 2-lane bridge, and it was like, I think it was a stop sign intersection if I remember right, at 101. No, I think it was an on-ramp in the early 80s, but it was only a 2-lane bridge across 46. Niblick Bridge didn't exist, and 13th Street Bridge was also 2 lanes, and on rainy years it would push the Salinas River would get so deep it would debris, it would breach the top of the bridge sometimes. There was I think it was 1969 or something like that or whatever. There was a big rain year in the 60s or 70s that even washed that bridge out. So, but that's all there was connecting the two sides of town is these 2-lane bridges. And then they added the Niblick Bridge and brought in Walmart, and we thought we had arrived. Yeah, it's great. But no, it's been a lot of great changes over the years, but still kept the small town charm. Yeah. So we're grateful for that.
I'm very happy about that. And even if another 10 years, 15 years, and Paso keeps growing, I feel like it will still be that small town charm, whatever. Because everybody's moving here, I feel like we like convert them almost.
Yeah.
Like, this is how nice people are.
Yeah.
Because when you go into the big city, you're ignored because they don't want to like deal with it or whatever.
Yeah.
But then they move up here, it's like everybody said hi to me like they know me.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's true. And I remember, one of the things you got to do that gets people right, that pulls them into the fold and helps them like catch the feel in the groove. You got to go to Pioneer Day, right? You got to do that Pioneer Day parade. You got to do that.
You got to take your Tupperware.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to do the bean feed and all that and enjoy the parade, and it really does showcase the small town Paso charm. And that downtown park has come a long ways. That used to be the Paso Robles Mercantile down there and the auto parts store, and it was kind of run down. That's where I bought my Letterman's jacket when I graduated from Paso High School. It was at the Paso Robles Mercantile, right down there. But they even had the old vacuum tubes where you'd put your money and the ticket in this tube, and they drop it in the vacuum, and it would suck it up to the accounting office, and they'd make change and send it back.
That's funny.
You're doing a deposit at the bank with a little bag. They had those at the Mercantile. I remember that. I love those old fashioned things though. Yeah. So anyhow, I love to see how the downtown park though it has that resurgence, but it's kept that small town charm. I do think that's great.
So one last thing, I mean, I've grown up here my whole life and I've never gone down this road. So it was kind of cool to experience it for the first time. Before we end the show, how can people find you? How do they stay up to date? Because I'm not sure how active you are on social media. I haven't checked very much.
We have a little bit of activity on social media. They can definitely find us online. We do have a website. It's danielswoodland.com.
Yeah.
If you're really interested in our ride, you really want to experience like the magnum opus of Daniels Woodland to date. Okay, the magnum opus. You really want to experience it, go to Treasure Hunt the Ride in Monterey. It's only a couple hours away. The ride tickets are good for like unlimited rides all day long. It's absolutely spectacular. It's jaw dropping. You'll feel like you've gone to Disneyland or Universal. It really is of that caliber. In fact, it won an award recently at for the Themed Entertainment Association. Has their Thea Awards, and Treasure Hunt was recognized with a recognition of merit that night, and that's like getting an Oscar. You know, it doesn't mean anything if you're not in the industry, but trust me, it's no joke. So it was honored with an award. Like other recipients that night were Tokyo Disney and Shanghai Disney and the Las Vegas Sphere and some of those things, attractions from around the world, and they give 15 awards away every year of something latest and greatest of like, you know, super well done achievement in the amusement industry on planet Earth. And Treasure Hunt was recognized. And you'll go, and when you go, you'll see why. Yeah. It is spectacular. That's a great place to see the work for sure. You know, we do occasionally, we'll schedule school tours. I enjoy when kids can come over and kind of wrap their minds around it because it gets their wheels turning. They love it. They love to see how we do things. I don't mind doing that. We are offering those. Those can be arranged here now. That's one of our first things that we're starting to offer in terms of like people that can come and visit is they can arrange tours. You can contact us if you're interested in that. We do charge a little bit for it, but I think it's a heck of a fair price. So that's kind of how to go see us. And you know, if you really want to see Daniel's Woodland, it's out there on. You can download past episodes of Redwood Kings. It's who we are.
I'm gonna go home and watch it. Yeah. I'm gonna go home and watch it.
There's some great stuff in there. It was a fun time, you know, to be on there. But it really does showcase like who we are and how we work and everything. So it is 10 years old. So we're 10 years worth more of those Farsies. You know, have taken us further than back in the day. We're in our old shop. That was a smaller 10,000 square foot postage stamp that we had to work in. And now we have this nice 40,000 square foot shop on 12 acres that we're on. So it's nice to do that. So,
yeah. Well, thank you, Ron, for letting me use this room and give me a tour. Yep. And I'm definitely going to invite you back. And maybe next time you'll see the studio because, you know, I want you to check it out too.
Heck yeah. That sounds like a plan.
Thank you, man.
So thank you.